Hello, my name is Alex. I'm a physical therapist. I work in a private hospital in a pain clinic where I help patients with chronic pain overcome and manage their pain issues. Having chronic pain means also that you have a lot of issues regarding your mental health. These people often have very high levels of stress, they have very high levels of anxiety, some of them have severe depression. This means on a daily basis that I also help people manage their mental health, overthinking, chronic worrying, and help them implement strategies for this. And today I want to talk about strategies that you can use to manage things like chronic worrying, as I said, being stressed out, feeling anxiety, having intrusive thoughts, having chronic thoughts, racing thoughts going around and around and around, and feeling like it's impossible to stop it. So, first of all, what is like chronic worrying? What is stress? What is anxiety? Why do we have all of these thoughts that just goes around and around and around? And why does it feel impossible to stop it? So you can go into a very long and complicated conversation about this, but I'm gonna try and keep it very simple. Our brains are designed to make thoughts. Our hearts are designed to beat all the time, and our brain is designed to make a lot of thoughts. This is what our brains does. So the first thing to realize is that it's normal. It's normal to have a lot of thoughts. Some days you will have more, some days you will have less. Some periods of your life you will have more thoughts, some periods of your life you will have less. And this is the first thing that's very important to know, is that it's normal. It's not dangerous, and it's firstly also very important to know that thoughts are thoughts. Your thoughts are not you, and you are not your thoughts. We need to separate these two things from each other. People have weird thoughts all the time about all sorts of weird shit. Uh, I sometimes have weird, intrusive thoughts when I'm on a high ledge. What would happen if I just pushed this person? Have you ever had that thought? Or what if I like jumped right now? I could jump over this ledge right now. That's a weird thought. Why does my brain do this? But your brain does this. And this is what brains do. And you are not weird for having that. That is normal. All sorts of weird, intrusive thoughts will occur. Your brain just does this. It creates associations based on where you are, what you're experiencing, what you've experienced before, what kind of mood you're in, your physiological state, what you've been drinking, eating, who you're with, and so on and so forth. Your brain just does this. It creates associations all the time. And the way that I like to think about it is that your brain likes to run little simulations all the time. So if you're like, as this example again, close to a ledge, and your brain is like, what if I just like I could push this person? Or like, what if I jumped? Or like, what if this whole building came crashing down? Kind of thoughts, right? And um I'm thinking it like your brain is just kind of like trying to simulate like, oh, what if this happened? Or what if this happened? What if this happened? And this is what you need to know, that your brain's first priority is always to protect you. Your nervous system's job is to protect you. And it does this by running worst case scenarios. Our brains and our nervous systems it has what's called the negativity bias. And if you never heard of the negativity bias, it's that your brain will always focus more on the negative aspects of life rather than the positives. And this is why it's sometimes difficult to feel, positive all the time, which is also impossible. No one is positive all the time. But your brain is more inclined to focus on negative stuff, quote unquote, um, uh, the bad stuff, because it wants to protect you. If it was just lolling around, just whatever kind of, uh, you would probably be dead. You would walk somewhere and your brain would be like la di da, and you would just like, I don't know, fall over the ledge, instead of your brain being like, ooh, this is like, no, don't fall over the ledge, like, right? So the first part here is just to realize that thoughts are normal. All sorts of thoughts are normal. There are no right or wrong thoughts, because thoughts are just thoughts. You might have thoughts that are really uncomfortable. You might have thoughts that feel like they should not be there. And I'm not saying that sometimes, thoughts cannot be like, oh, I need to like talk about this. But again, no matter what thoughts you have, thoughts are just thoughts. What separates you from your thoughts is if you act or you do not act on these thoughts. There is a big difference. You can have all thoughts in the world, but there's a difference between thinking something and doing something, right? I would never push someone off a ledge. And now it sounds like I'm a crazy person who goes around thinking about pushing people over the ledge all the time. Ledges. I do not do that. This has happened like a couple of times, maybe. I think a lot of people can relate to this. Weird thoughts coming and going. The point is that all sorts of thoughts are normal and they're not, thoughts are not dangerous. Thoughts are just thoughts. That's what they are. Now, how does this relate to anxiety, stress, and depression, for example? Well, your body's, as I said before, purpose, main like drive is to protect you. And it does this by activating a series of physiological processes in your body. This is what we call the stress response. The stress response, if we're talking a bit about what stress is a good thing. Generally speaking, stress is a good thing. It's a good thing that you're able to be stressed. It's a good thing that your body is able to stress you out. Stress is a physiological response that starts in your brain. A signal will travel down through your body into the adrenal glands, and from here, your adrenal glands will release a bunch of hormones: cortisol, adrenaline, and a long list of other catecholamines, it's called, which is sorry, it's molecules, hormones that will allow you to do more stuff. These hormones will affect your body. It will raise your body temperature. It will increase your heart rate, your blood flow, your concentration will go up, your senses will be enhanced, your muscle activation will be primed for action. This is what the stress response does. And this is a good thing because you want to be able to do stuff. The first thing that happens in the morning when you wake up is that you have a big cortisol spike. And cortisol is one of the let's go hormones. This is what sets your body into like do stuff. But the issue with stress is that if this process goes on for too long, then you will experience chronic stress. Short-term stress is good. It's a good thing. You also have like good positives kind of stress. If you're like in a theme park and you're trying a roller coaster, that's a good kind of stress. If you're playing a game of like soccer or whatever, you're playing sports and you need to like perform, this is a good kind of stress. This is helpful to you. Your body is like, yes, we're doing this, we're primed, we're ready. And it can be fun. Like roller coasters are fun for most people, unless you don't like roller coasters. That's fair enough. But generally speaking, like you can have a like stress can be fun. It can be super nice, and there are different kinds of stress. And the determining factor is also your environment and context and how you're feeling in this moment that will determine how this stress is experienced and how long it persists for. Because chronic stress is not a good thing because the stress response, physiologically speaking, is taxing on your body. This is not something that you will be able to keep up for longer periods of time. Your body needs to recover. It needs to rest and digest. Our nervous system is divided into two parts. We have the fight or flight system, which is the stress response that happens here. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have the rest and digest system. And this is the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, two opposites of the same system. In the middle of that, we have what's called homeostasis, which is where your body is when it's in a neutral state. And your body's state will fluctuate from one to the other and come into the middle again. This is how our body works. This is how it balances itself. But the most important part is that if we've been over here in the fight and flight system, the stress system, and this can be like overcoming difficult challenges or being in a roller coaster, right? Theme park. We have to go over to the other side and spend some time recovering. But the problem is that our thoughts, especially our feelings, our internal state of mind can keep us trapped over here in the fight or flight mode, the sympathetic mode, where our body is chronically pumping out stress hormones for longer periods of time, and it's not able to get over back to the rest and digest side to recover, so that we can go in back in the middle to homeostasis. Because we also don't want to just be like over here all the time in like blob mode, full rest and digest. Like, it's also not a good state to be. You want to be somewhere in the middle, right? And like fluctuate between this and that. So why are we chronically stressed? What do our thoughts have to do with chronic stress, anxiety, and depression? Why is overthinking a problem? So, as I said before, thoughts are not dangerous. Thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts are not the problem in of itself. But what you do with the thoughts, is very important. The thoughts that you have is not the problem. It's how you manage your thoughts, and this is what this video is really about. This is what this the topic here is. So let me explain this to you. When we think about chronic stress, what kind of things do we usually think about that we need to manage? Usually we would say, oh, you're working too much, or you have had a fight with your girlfriend, or you broke up, or going through a difficult time in your period. Maybe you've been sick for a long time. Maybe you have financial issues. Maybe your car broke down, or maybe you had an injury. Maybe someone died close to you. Maybe you just have too many things going on. Maybe you feel like you're working too much. You're not able to like rest and recover. Maybe you're in school and you have had long periods of like examinations, and you're like, this has been very stressful to you. These are all external stressors. And a stressor is something that stresses our system. That is something that puts a demand on our system and activates this stress response, the physiological stress response. And remember, the physiological stress response is a good thing. It's a good thing that you can become stressed. This is a system that has been fine-tuned over millions of years by nature, and it is designed to activate and deactivate on a biological state. This is what nature has designed for you. The problem is when it doesn't turn off. And what we usually think about when we think about stressed people is all the external factors, all the things going on in our lives around us, right? What we're forgetting, and what newer research within the past 20 years has shown, is that our internal state of mind is extremely important. What's going on inside of us has at least the same degree, if not more, in the modern world. It has more of an influence on your stress levels, chronic stress, depression, anxiety, than the external factors. You can have the perfect work environment, you can have the perfect work-life balance, you can have perfect friends, perfect family, perfect school, perfect grades, perfect this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Our lives objectively is getting easier. If you look at it objectively, we're doing less. We have technology to help us with everything from cooking to cleaning to communication to transportation, everything. Like, so many of our basic needs are met for a big majority of people in the world. There are, of course, also a very big chunk of the world who do not have that. But generally speaking, the world as a whole is moving towards a better place, where there are less objectively speaking, obstacles to overcome, because we have so much support from technology, healthcare, and so on. We live longer, we're healthier, we have abundance of food. Generally speaking, we have enough food, but that's another topic. Many people do not have enough food, but many people have enough food today. There are less hungry people than maybe before. All right. But why is the mental health epidemic then so prevalent? Why is so many people struggling so much with stress, anxiety, depression? And that has to do with our internal state of mind. And this is not about thinking more positive or being more just like happy, or like focusing on the good things in life. It doesn't have to do with that. if that worked, then people would not be struggling as much. Of course, like, focus on the good sides of life, and you know, be a positive person, have a positive mindset. Sure, it's all good, it's all dandy, but that's not going to fix the problem alone, because the problem is not what kind of thoughts you're thinking. The problem is overthinking. And if the problem is overthinking, let me ask you a question. Is it possible for you to solve an overthinking problem with more thinking? Even if it's positive thinking, right? That's what you're told. Think more positive, think differently, try to change your thoughts. But if the problem in of itself is overthinking, how can more thinking, even though it's different thinking, but how can more thinking solve the problem? The answer is that it cannot. You cannot solve an overthinking problem with more thinking, even though it's positive thinking or happy thinking or blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work. This is what we call internal stressors. We have external stressors and we have internal stressors. And internal stressors is what is going on inside of your mind. This is all the things that you're thinking about. This is worrying, speculation, rumination, just, going over and over the same things again and again and again. Maybe you feel you need to prepare. You feel like you need to over prepare. Maybe it comes from a place of perfectionism. Maybe you had trauma in your childhood. Maybe you have PTSD. Maybe you have a serious health condition that, of course, is a valid reason to worry. Maybe you're thinking over and over things that happened in your life previously, in the past. These things, of course, is important to address. But a lot of the therapeutic methods today focuses on going into the problem, discussing the problem further, trying to find the solution, find the answer, to heal it by going through it. Like, the whole consensus is you have to work through it. But how can you let something heal if you're constantly stirring it? How is it possible for your mind and your body to regulate if you're constantly unregulating it? If you're trying actively constantly to regulate, how is your body able to regulate itself? Because your body has the ability to self-regulate, but you need to allow it to have space to do that. And the problem is that we've been taught through school, through healthcare system, and positive psychology, that we need to constantly fix things. We need to fix things, we need to stir things, we need to dive into things, we need to have more knowledge and information. But what if the solution was to do nothing? What if the solution was to practice consciously, to do less about solving your problems, right? The problem, of course, you can have external issues in your life, but a majority of the reason why we feel stressed is because we have all of these internal things going on. The internal things are our thoughts, our feelings, and again, the problem is not what kind of feelings we have. The problem is not what kind of thoughts we're thinking. The problem is what we do with it. And generally speaking, we do too much with it. We handle it too much. We think about it too much. We try to solve it too much. Or the opposite, we try to make it go away too much. We're pushing all the thoughts and feelings away, ignoring them, keeping ourselves so busy and distracted all the time that we're not able to relax in any way. We're overstimulating ourselves in order to avoid the negative and uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. And this is an important aspect of what I'm talking about, because of course thoughts and feelings can be very uncomfortable, but it's also very important to know, as I said before, that there are no right or wrong feelings or thoughts. Thoughts and feelings are just that, thoughts and feelings. They cannot hurt you, not in any way, sense, or form. But what can hurt you is that you're spending an excessive amount of time focusing on the problem. So I want to explain to you why, and I want to get into a bit of the practical elements of how to actually practice this method. So this method that I'm going to dive into now of how to manage stress, anxiety, depression, negative thoughts and feelings, rumination, overthinking is based on what's called metacognitive psychology. Metacognitive psychology was developed by Andrew Wells. He's a psychologist, professor who's based in the UK. And we have in Denmark a very prestigious, esteemed, there we go. We have a very smart person here. Her name is Pia Callison. She's also a professor of psychology and a clinical psychologist. And she also is a very, very big spokesperson for metacognitive psychology. So metacognitive psychology differentiates from other typical cognitive branches of psychology. It focuses on doing less. Other branches of psychology focuses on doing more. For example, in cognitive psychology, classically speaking, in cognitive behavioral psychology, you need to dive into the problem. So here we need to go through your childhood. We need to figure out what happened to you, go over the things and talk about the thoughts and feelings. Like we're diving into all of these things. And I'm not saying that cannot be helpful. Of course, understanding ourselves, understanding our past, our current issues, preparing for the future is important. And you need to do that. But the question is, how much do you need to do that? And the question is, can you do too much? What if you do that all day? What if those processes are going on all day? And this is where metacognitive psychology comes in and changes, kind of flips things a bit around. You want to do less in the metacognitive approach. We're not so concerned about what the content of the thoughts are. We are interested in how much time are you spending on it? How much time are you spending on handling, managing your thoughts and feelings? So your mind has the ability to self-regulate. Your thoughts, your feelings has the ability to self-regulate. Negative feelings, no matter how big or how small, they will pass. But the question is, how do you make how do you help a thought disappear? How does thoughts disappear, right? Is it by pushing them away? Is it by trying to solve the problem the thought is about? Or could it be that thoughts disappear if you leave them alone? Let me try and ask you a question here. Now we're going to try and go through a little bit of a therapeutic process here together. All right, so try and stick with me. So I want you to reflect on this question. What did you have for breakfast this morning? And if you didn't have breakfast, there was probably another thing in the morning that you were thinking about. Maybe you had a thought this morning that, oh, I need to brush my teeth, or oh, I need to shower, or oh, I need to remember my lunch. Like, try and think of a thought that you had earlier today in the morning. A thought about like breakfast or something else, right? So now I don't know what the time is where you're at right now. Maybe if you're eating breakfast, this example is less relevant for you, but you're gonna get like the gist of it. So let me ask you another question. This thought about breakfast that you had this morning, or the thought about showering, or whatever it was, right? Have you been thinking about that more today? Is that something that you have been reflecting on the rest of the day? Is that thought like kept reoccurring, like, oh, cornflakes, 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 or like, oh, eggs, I had to get eggs. I got eggs in the morning. I eat that. Like, is like these thoughts, have they been reoccurring for you, or did they just disappear after you finished eating breakfast? Most likely, unless you're very obsessed with cornflakes and eggs, most likely these thoughts disappeared. And isn't that kind of interesting? That your mind already has the ability to sort out thoughts, right? Your mind produces more than 70,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thoughts. Some thoughts stick with us. These thoughts that are like, really annoying us, the thoughts that keep going around and around, and you're trying to do so much with to make them disappear. But what's the difference between the cornflakes thought that you had in the morning, or the milk, or the shower, whatever it was? What's the difference between these thoughts? Because these thoughts clearly disappeared, right? They just, poof, they went away. They didn't like keep reoccurring and following you for the rest of the day. So what's the difference between these kind of thoughts, cornflakes, and breakfast, and then these negative thoughts that you want to get rid of, the ones that are keeping you awake at night? What's the difference between thoughts that stays and what's the difference between thoughts that go? Your mind already has the ability to self-regulate. A metaphor that is often used to describe our mind is a backpack. Like, you have all this luggage with you. You have all this luggage with you, we say, and you, like, then the consensus is you need to empty this backpack. You need to actively take stuff out of the backpack in order to lighten the load. But what if your mind was not like a backpack? What if your mind was more like an hourglass? So, or like a sift, the strainer you use in the kitchen, right? It has holes. So an hourglass, if you imagine like an hourglass, right? Hourglass shape, and then it has an open top, and we pour sand in. What happens with that sand? Does it stay in the top, or does it slowly fall out? It slowly over time will fall out, right? So same with it with a strainer, right? What happens to stuff you put in a strainer? It will fall through, but it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of time. So if we're sticking with the time glass analogy metaphor, then the sand will go through. It's not like a closed thing where it just stays and you have to empty it like a backpack. Your mind has the ability to self-regulate if you give it time and space. So again, that's the premise here. Your mind has the ability to self-regulate. This is also why some thoughts disappear. This is a proof. You already have the ability to self-regulate. Your mind has the ability to self-regulate, because if it didn't, then these thoughts of like breakfast and cornflakes, they would stay with you the whole day, but they don't, right? The majority of our thoughts disappear, but some of them, they tend to stick around. So what's the difference between thoughts that stay and thoughts that disappear? So I wanna give you another example here of some strategies that people they use to try and make thoughts disappear. So one of the first strategies is like trying to make them go away. So you're telling your thoughts literally to go away. Like, go away, disappear, get out, I don't want to think about it, don't think about this, don't think about that, don't think about that stupid thing I did, don't think about this stupid conversation that I had, right? Like, you're really trying to like push it away. Our mind works like a magnifying glass. Our attention is what is important here. So I want to try and give you a little task here. Okay, for the next 10 seconds, I want you to try very hard, your very best. I want you to try to not think of a pink elephant. All right, can you try and do that for me? Try to not think of a pink elephant now. All right, you're gonna have 10 seconds for that. Don't think about the big pink ears, the big pink trunk. Don't think about it. Whatever you do, do not think about a pink elephant. So how did that go? Probably pretty difficult, right? Our brains, your brain, it does not understand the word not. Your brain cannot not. Your brain only can. Our mind simply does not understand that it, like, to tell it to not do stuff. And this is because your brain highlights what you focus your attention on. This is the key thing. Your attention is what matters. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to make things go away or if you're trying to solve it. Your brain only focuses on, it only latches onto the things that you focus on. You can think a bit about it like a flashlight in the dark. Wherever you focus your attention to is what is going to be illuminated for your brain. And whatever you illuminate the most, whatever you focus on the most, your attention, that is what your brain will think is the most important thing to you. You only focus on your cornflakes for a very brief moment during the day, then you do not focus on that anymore. And that tells your brain that this is probably not very important, which means your brain is going to self-regulate and is going to put it to the side, right? It's not going to keep popping those thoughts about cornflakes again and again and again. So what's the difference between thoughts that we want? What's the difference between thoughts that stay and thoughts that disappear? The difference is how much time do you give it? How much of your attention do you give it? So the key thing here to understand about how to manage these internal stressors, coming back to that word, internal stressors, our thoughts, our feelings, and how do we manage that? What's the key thing here? The key thing is not what kind of thoughts and feelings you have. The key thing is how much time and attention do you give it. The more you give it, the more you try to either make it go away, or the more you focus on your problems to try and solve them, the more your brain will keep reproducing the same thoughts again and again and again and again, because your brain only understands what you're focusing on. It only understands what you're giving attention. And this is what is going to keep those thoughts from staying there. So very paradoxically, by trying to either solve your problems or trying to make the problems go away by telling your brain to make it go away, or to try and distract yourself from the problem all the time, this will paradoxically make those thoughts and feelings stay. Which means your overhandling, overthinking, overdoing, overmanagement is the key of the problem. It's not the thoughts and feelings themselves. As we established in the earlier part of this video, thoughts and feelings are normal, even the weird ones, even the pushing a kid off the ledge thoughts, like whatever it is, right? And I feel I'm just the pushing people over a ledge guy now, but you get the point. It's normal. These thoughts are normal. It's not bad to have these thoughts. Everyone has it. Weird as thoughts. Our brains are weird. We see weird shit on the internet all the time. What is your brain supposed to do? Cavemen drew weird pictures of booby cave women on the walls, and they made little dolls that they took with them. Like we found this from archaeology, like thousands of years ago, that was like the first kind of porno, right? They made little wooden figurines, and like people have been weird for a long time, is all I'm trying to say. The brain is weird. Thoughts and feelings are normal. What we do with them, though, what we do with it is what determines whether your body is able to self-regulate, or that these things will keep reoccurring. And this overhandling of the problem is also what causes the chronic stress and burnout. Your brain does not understand the difference between reality and imagination. And I need to elaborate a little bit on this. I can see that this video is turning quite long, so I was not, I didn't really have a plan for this video. This is going to be a bit of a longer one, and I'm going to try and dive into like some of these topics a bit more loosely later on, or the opposite, more specifically, right? So we're going to have some more specific chunks of this, more practical, but I guess this is like the first part of it for laying everything out. All right, so I want to return to stress, chronic stress, and why our thoughts and feelings can make us chronically stressed, these internal stressors. So again, as I said before, your brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. This is why when you're watching a horror movie that you are scared shitless. because your brain does not understand whether this is happening in real time or whether it's happening, like if it's happening in reality or if it's not. Your brain doesn't care about that. It only cares about your safety. So your brain will elicit, it will create the same stress response no matter what, even if it's a potential threat. Your brain and body and nervous system reacts to potential threats exactly the same way that it would with imminent threats. And when you're watching a horror movie, you know rationally that you are not in danger, right? You know that if you're watching Saw, no one's going to come out and chop your leg off, right? But your brain doesn't care about that. It just sees like fucking gore and blood and people dying and terrible sounds and shit. And it will produce the exact same response as if you were in that situation. It doesn't care about reality or imagination. And this is a really smart biological feature, because this is what would keep you from going into a bush in the middle of the night where you hear, like you hear a bunch of sounds, right? And it sounds like a tiger. Would it be smart for your brain to be like, oh, that sounds like a tiger. That sounds like something that's really dangerous to me. Let me just go and investigate. Like, that's probably not dangerous. No, that would be a terrible thing. We would all be dead if that was how our brains worked. Luckily, our brains do not work like that. But our brains instead protect us by fearing, expecting the worst case scenario. That's again back to that negativity bias. And at the same time creating this stress response beforehand, even though it's a potential threat. You have not yet seen the tiger. You just heard the sounds of the tiger, the potential of a dangerous tiger. It could be a cat. It could be a bird. I don't know. It could be a neighbor. Your brain doesn't care. It will create the same response as if you were in real danger. And returning to why this is relevant for you is because when you're thinking about something in the past, when you're thinking about something in the future, you're ruminating, you're overthinking about this, trying to either make it go away by telling it to like disappear. You know what happens when you do that? Pink elephant, it will come again and again and again. When you are maybe trying to like go through a conversation you had with your boss a week ago, like you went back and forth, or maybe it was the job interview and you were like, oh, I should have said this, why did I say this? Or maybe you're preparing for that mentally in a week and you're like, oh, I'm going to say this, but what if they say that? What if they do this? Oh my God, what's going to happen? Or you're thinking about that embarrassing memory from school where you, like, I don't know, you puked all over the table at the party, whatever it is, right? um, your brain does not know reality from imagination. Your brain will react physiologically as if you were in that situation. And as I told in the prior, earlier part of this video, the stress response is taxing for you. It is demanding on your body, and it will put you into that sympathetic mode of fight and flight. Your body will release stress hormones into your system. And this is your brain doing this. This is your imagination, because your brain reacts to potential threats as if it was real threats, because it wants to protect you. So when you are imagining things that happened 10 years ago, when you're imagining going to a job interview in a week or a month or however long it is, your brain doesn't care about that. It only cares about protecting you and making you ready to overcome challenges, which means the more you think about this, the more your body will produce the stress response, which is taxing for you, which will drain you over time and put you into a chronic state of depression, burnout, anxiety, chronic stress. This is how it happens. Your internal stressors, not the external stressors, the internal stressors is what is driving this burnout for you, right? This is what's making you feel so bad, because your system is constantly being overused all the time. And it's not, your brain is not able to go from the fight and flight state to the rest and digest state, because your chronic overthinking is driving you over to the fight or flight mode. All right. And this can only go on for so long before you will eventually crash. And this will lead to more worrying and more overthinking and more negative feelings. And this is just a spiral that will go on and on and on and on and on. So how do we solve this? We do not solve it by trying to solve the problems even more. Remember, we cannot solve an overthinking problem with more thinking. We do not solve it by trying to think more positively about things, because again, this is also thinking. And what we want to do is reduce the thinking. We want to reduce the internal stressors. We do also not solve it by trying to make the thoughts go away, by telling them to go away or replace them with something else. That's again, try not to think of a pink elephant. What happens? You think of a goddamn pink elephant, right? Try not to think about the embarrassing thing you did at school. Try not to think about the job interview that you have next week. What's going to happen? You're going to think more about it. And also, another thing, you cannot make thoughts go away by just doing stuff all the time. This is a strategy that I see so often that people try to do. They will keep themselves busy all the time, distracting themselves, being on the phone, exercising, eating, being with friends, watching series, everything that they can do to distract themselves. And this also includes mindfulness, meditation. This also includes breathing exercises. This includes body relaxation exercises. I'm a physical therapist. These are not necessarily bad things, but used excessively and used with the purpose of making your thoughts numb and disappear is not a good way to do it. This is going to do the opposite. And I will illustrate to you why that happens. Imagine that you're trying to push, you have a ball, right? A ball that you take to the beach. You're trying to push this underwater. Perfect. Problem solved. Now that annoying ball that was blocking your view is now out of sight. Out of sight, out of mind. But what happens, like this works while you're doing it, right? But as with the breathing exercises, as with the meditation that you tried, as with the watching Netflix and binging and scrolling, what happens when you stop doing it? You need to expend energy to do these things, right? And what happens when you let go? What happens to the ball? Comes right back up. All of these things that you're trying to do to make the bad thoughts and feelings go away, it works while you're doing it. But it also takes energy to do these things. This is not helping you relax. And the second you stop doing these things, it will come right back up in your face, like a beach ball that you're trying to press down underwater. This does not work either. We cannot push our thoughts and feelings away by telling them to go away. Your attention is still focused on the problem. You cannot push it away by distracting yourself. When you're distracting yourself from something, paradoxically, you are also focusing on that something. You cannot try to cover something up without looking at it, right? So what do we do instead? You need to train yourself and learn to let your mind self-regulate, because your mind and your body has the ability to do that. It's on that spectrum I talked about: fight and flight, rest and digest, homeostasis in the middle. This is how your body is designed. It's like a weight system thingy, blah blah blah. So what do we do instead? You need to train yourself to allow thoughts to be there, allow feelings to be there, even the uncomfortable ones. And you need to practice this. So how do we practice this? Well, as I said, let me just see where I left off now. I want to tell you a metaphor, and I know this is a long video, but this is also not a quick fix. There is no quick fix for this. This is also something that's like really important for me to underline. There is no quick fix for solving chronic stress, depression, anxiety, overthinking. There is no quick fix for this. This is why all of these quick fix videos telling you that, oh, breathe like this, oh, think like this, oh, think more positive, blah, 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 do journaling. It doesn't work. It works when you do it, like pressing the ball down, but what happens when you let go, right? So if you're still here, I think that's great. Really fucking good job. All right, so to continue on, now we understand how the stress response work. We understand why external stressors around us is not the main source of stress. We understand why internal stressors, your thoughts and feelings, especially the thoughts, is what is causing your burnout and stress. And we understand why that is from an evolutionary perspective, which is that your brain wants to protect you. It has the negativity bias so that it focuses more on the negative things of your life to protect you. And your brain does not understand the difference between potential danger and real danger, which is why when you keep ruminating on something or trying to push it away, or whatever it is that you're doing with it, overhandling it, overthinking, your mind will keep on producing the stress response in your body. Your body will react physiological to this as if you were in that danger, because your brain does not know the difference between reality and imagination. It only knows what it only knows to protect you. And also, we have learned now that what keeps thoughts from disappearing, what prevents your mind and body from self-regulating, is your attention. And we call this principle that what we water will grow. And your attention is like water for a plant. It's like fertilizer for a plant. If you, whatever you focus on is also what will grow. So if you keep focusing on your problems, they will keep growing. They will become bigger. If you try to push your problems away all the time, you are paradoxically, indirectly, still focusing on your problems, which will make them grow. So how do you make a plant grow? You water it, you fertilize it. This is your attention. This is you giving this attention. Attention is like water and fertilizer for a plant. That's what attention is for your brain. It makes the things grow. So how do we make a plant? How do you kill a plant? How do you stop a plant from growing? You stop nurturing it. You stop giving it water. You stop giving it fertilizer. And this is what we need to do with your thoughts and your mind. We need to stop giving it so much fertilizer and water. You need to stop putting your attention on it. It doesn't work to push it away. It doesn't work to distract yourself. So let's try and do something else. Have you ever tried to just do nothing? Do nothing with it. How do you do nothing with something? So I want to give you a metaphor to illustrate how this works. So we can imagine it like this. Your thoughts comes and goes, and your thoughts are like trains on a train station. Thoughts, the trains will come in and they will go, and you're standing on the platform, right? You're watching the trains come and go. Now you have a choice. You can either stay on the platform or you can jump on the train. You can jump on the thought, right? And what you do is very important, because if you jump on the train, well, then you're no longer able to be in the place you want to be, right? You're going around with the train and you're distracted. So how do we stay on the platform? This is the first thing. You need to learn how to stay on the platform. The next thing is realizing, and I can help you maybe with this through a question. If you're standing on a platform on a train station, do you or do you not have the ability to control which trains are coming and going and when they're coming and going? Do you have any influence on when the trains come and go at the train station? The answer is you do not. You do not have the ability to control when the trains are coming and going. And this is exactly with your mind and your thoughts. You do not have the ability to control which thoughts your mind will produce. As we established earlier, your brain just makes thoughts all the time. It makes 70,000 thoughts per day. You do not have the ability to control this. So if we're not able to control our thoughts, if we're not able to control which trains come and go on the train station, what can we do then? We can control our attention. You can control your attention. And this is the main thing in metacognitive therapy. There are also some other very important elements that we will not go into in this video, so we're going to stick with the attention. So the first thing to realize is that you have the ability to not jump on the train. But if you do not jump on the train, does that then make the trains like disappear? Or if you're just standing on the platform all day, Does that stop the trains from coming and going? No, it does not. So this is something that's really important to realize with this method. The point of this method is not to make your thoughts and feelings go away. This is impossible. If you did not think anything, you would be brain dead. Your brain will always create thoughts. So the problem is not that the thoughts are there, as I stated earlier. The problem is how much time you spend on it, how much attention you give it. But by doing this, by staying on the platform, not jumping on the train, the thoughts will not go away. But over time, it could be interesting to make an experiment and see if you did less with your thoughts, if you didn't try to push them away, if you didn't try to solve the problem by overanalyzing it and overthinking it, I wonder if your brain would be able to self-regulate, like with those cornflakes thoughts that disappeared by themselves. I wonder if you started giving it less of your time and attention, if that would help your mind regulate, and that these thoughts over time then would regulate by themselves. All right. So another important aspect of the train metaphor that also maybe helps understand a bit why overdoing things with thoughts and feelings is a problem is that can ask the question, which trains are most present? Which trains have the most frequent departures from the train station? Which trains are the most of? Is it the trains that are used the most, or is it the trains that are used the least? The answer is the trains that are used the most. So the more you use the train, the more you hop on the train, the more that train will come, which means the more that you go with the thoughts that you're thinking, the more of them will come. Another way to understand this is like Google Ads, right? If you are constantly like Googling, I don't know, fishing rods, if you're constantly Googling fishing rods, right? Searching for fishing rods, reading about fishing rods, focusing on fishing rods, what will tend to be the main thing that you will see ads about? Fishing rods. And this is how your brain works. The more you spend time on something, give it attention, like googling stuff on Google, whatever, the more this is what your brain will show you and suggest to you, exactly like with Google Ads. It will keep like reproducing that thought again and again and again. But if you stop Googling fishing rods for a while, then that will slowly disappear over time. Same as the train station. If you stop taking the train so often, then the train manager, I guess, will be like, oh, no one's using this train. There is no need to have this many trains on this stretch, so we're gonna like put less of them. And your thoughts and your brain works the same way. Over time, if you stop doing so much with it, it will start to like get less and less and less. All right. This was a very long rant, and I don't think I can talk more about this now. If you listened all the way to this, like, good job. This is also kind of a practice video for me. I'm new to YouTube stuff, but yeah, I'm making mental health and educational content, and I'm gonna make this video again. And this was just a first draft, and I'm gonna make it much more concise and much more concrete, and with much clearer tools on how to actually use this. So the next video, I will try and make it more concrete on how to actually practice this. So this was an educational video, information video about stress, depression, anxiety, and the connection to our the way that we deal with our thoughts. All right. Thank you so much for seeing this. Like, again, if you watched all the way to the end, you are a champ. You are amazing. That's That's a really, really good job. I think this was very incoherent many places. Yeah, if you want to help and support this project, like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you leave a comment, I will be very happy, and I would really like to hear what you think. Um, I know this is like a very messy video, and yeah, it's very long. So, but yeah, I would appreciate that. Give me your honest opinion. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in probably a shorter video the next time. Bye bye.